Yeah, I'll react to that, sure.
Okay, guys. It's been a long... Hi, how are you? Whenever I look at the camera for the first time, and I feel like I'm looking into... Like, the camera is like I feel like I'm looking into someone's eyes, so I have to, like... And I always realize I didn't say, how are you? So, how you guys doing? I hope you're doing well. The Fall of the Abbasids. Preemptive like. Link to the original video from Epic History TV. Amazing, phenomenal, fantastic, epically great channel. I have that feeling I want to restart the intro, but just don't make me do it. All right, let's go. I watched the first part a while ago, but I watched the ending of the first part right before this, so I wouldn't be lost. So let's go.
In the 8th century Middle East, a new dynasty seized control of one of the world's greatest empires, the Islamic Caliphate. Though little remembered in the West today, the Abbasids reigned for 5 centuries. They oversaw an era of Islamic military dominance, city building, brilliant scholarship, and technological innovation. It has come to be remembered as Islam's golden age. This is the story of the Abbasid Caliphate. It's great to welcome back as video sponsors Raid Shadow.
I said the original link to the video is at the top of the description, right? If I didn't, I said it again, but I also recommend watching the first part of it, the rise of the Abbasids, however you want to say it. And also any links and any sponsors, they have, in this case, Raid Shadow Legends. Use the link, promo code.
A hugely successful fantasy tactical battle game for mobile. Raid's latest and most fearsome opponent is the 6-headed Hydra clan boss, each head with its own vicious traits. The Head of Decay turns your own healing powers against you, weakening squad members even as you heal them, and casting powerful protective shields around other Hydra heads. The Head of Wrath must be taken down with swift, brutal economy of force, because once you've hit it 15 times, it triples its attack power to strike back with devastating force. You can also take part in a new clan-based competition, Hydra Clash, in which you and 4 other clans compete to inflict the most punishment on the Hydra, with lucrative rewards on offer. It's the stunning visuals and countless tactical choices that we enjoy most about this game, and we're sure you'll love it too. If you're not playing Raid already, use the link in the video description or scan our QR code to get started with Epic Champion Drake and other great bonuses. Thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video.
Alright, guys. I'm ready to learn. If you are not ready to learn, you're in the wrong class. Home ec is down the hall. Alright? Make me a... whatever. Let's go. And Al-Rashid has sown among them constant warfare, so woe to the subjects in the future. Ibn al-Kifti.
The Abbasid Caliphate had flourished under the reign of Caliph Harun al-Rashid. And to ensure its continued success, he arranged his succession in a way that he believed would ensure stability and peace. His son, Muhammad, was to be his heir, but in a move common since the time of the Umayyads, he also named another son, Abdullah, as Muhammad's heir. It proved a recipe for disaster. In 809, in Baghdad, Muhammad succeeded his father as caliph, taking the title Al-Amin, the Trustworthy. His half-brother, Abdullah, became governor of Khorasan with the title Al-Ma'mun, the Trusted One. Rival factions soon formed at both courts. In Baghdad, Al-Amin's advisors urged him to remove his brother from the succession. And just a year into his reign, he tore up his father's arrangement. Al-Mamun was furious. Fraternal distrust exploded into civil war. Al-Mamun's Khorasani forces won a great victory against a much larger force at Ray and marched on to besiege Baghdad in 812. After a bloody year-long siege, the city fell.
Hey, I'm sorry, but Al Jazeera, isn't that a news network? I'm so dumb. Okay, sorry. I got distracted.
And marched on to besiege Baghdad in 812. After a bloody year-long siege, the city fell. Caliph Al-Amin was captured as he tried to flee and executed. Initially, Al-Mamun ruled the caliphate from his old base at Merv. Here, in an effort to widen his support after the civil war, he fostered a new alliance with the Alids. This powerful family was...
Guys, so what we know is the Islamic Golden Age. Do you think that Islam was able to, or by the way, I think it was Kings and Generals, or was it Epic History? I think it was Kings and Generals. The way that Muhammad, who's like the main guy in Islam, like the Jesus, like the prophet Islam, right? Anyone who's Muslim can clarify what I'm trying to say. That was in the 600s, right? And so when the Roman Empire fell, do you think that allowed the people around what is modern day Middle East, Iran, a bit of Central Asia, for Islam to prosper more and take over the amount they could, because the Roman Empire was no longer as dominant as it was anymore? And if the golden age of what is called the golden age of Islam was a result of a few hundred years of non-main big Roman Empire intervention. Hope that made sense.
was descended from his support after the...
Let me go back like 15 seconds.
Here, in an effort to widen his support after the Civil War, he fostered a new alliance with the Alids. This powerful family was descended from Ali, fourth caliph and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. They'd later become leaders of Shia Islam, the branch of Islam that believes true spiritual authority belongs to Ali's descendants.
And that's where the split, like, you know, Saudi Arabia and Iran don't really, I don't know if, I think hate is too strong of a word, but and it's because one is one type of Islam, the other is another, and that difference between the two started right here.
Instead of traditional Abbasid black, Al-Mamun's court began to wear green, a color associated with the Alids. Al-Mamun even married two of his daughters into...
Guys, just let me go back. Just fast forward if you want to. Just let me go back, okay?
Muhammad. They'd later become leaders of Shia Islam, the branch was descended from Alids. This powerful family was descended from Ali, fourth caliph and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. They'd later become leaders of Shia Islam, the branch of Islam that believes true spiritual authority belongs to Ali's descendants. Instead of traditional Abbasid black, Al-Mamun's court began to wear green, a color associated with the Alids. Al-Mamun even married two of his daughters into the Alid family and made Alid Imam Ali al-Rida his heir apparent. But these policies sparked hostility back in Iraq and led to major revolts in Baghdad. After 6 years, the Caliph moved the capital back there to restore order.
Question. Is is the division of the two main Islamic branches. I know Iran is one. I know Iran and Saudi Arabia are two opposing, two of the different Islamic things. Shia, Sunni. And so if that didn't happen, do you think there would be a sort of, you know how Christianity, or at least Catholicism, has the Pope as like a main spokesperson for Christianity, at least for Catholics, that there might have been a similar figure for Islam had it not been for the very immediate split into these two factions of Islam, whereas the split of Catholicism to others like Protestantism and all of the other branches seemed to happen many centuries after Christianity was established. If Islam might have had a similar figure if they had agreed on the succession.
After 6 years, the
But then why don't either side have their own individual one?
Caliph revolts in Baghdad. After 6 years, the Caliph moved the capital back there to restore order and abandoned his allied alliance. Al-Mamun is also remembered for his attempts to impose a new religious doctrine on the Caliphate. He first invited distinguished scholars to Baghdad to discuss theological issues, such as the deeds of the companions of the Prophet, the Hadiths, and the nature of the Quran. However, his pronouncement that the Quran was at some point created by God, rather than co-eternal with God, encountered bitter resistance. 18 years of religious persecution followed, a period known as the Minha, or Inquisition, which saw dissenting scholars imprisoned or even executed. In 833, Al-Mamun was succeeded by his brother, who took the title Al-Mutasim. He'd prove far less interested in theological debate than the clash of arms.
When troops are all of one race, dangers arise. They lack zeal and they are apt to be disorderly. It is necessary that they should be of different races. Nizam al-Mulk, Persian scholar, 1092.
The armies of the Abbasid Caliphate, renowned in battle, were drawn from both Arab and non-Arab subjects. The Khorasanis, soldiers of the frontier province of Khorasan, were the troops who'd helped propel the Abbasids to power during the Third Fitna, or Islamic Civil War.
Fitna.
Drawing on Persian and steppe warrior traditions, their ranks included both armored infantry and heavy armored cavalry, similar to European knights.
Would have expected light cavalry.
The descendants of Khorasanis who settled near Baghdad were known as Abna al-Khorasan, sons of the people of Khorasan.
I just say that Arabic letters look so cool. Maybe I would think European letters would look cool if I wasn't, or if my language didn't have, the classic. Yeah, I just think it looks cool. I don't know.
As elite,
like I think the Saudi Arabian flag, the green,
and sons of the people of Khorasan. Famed as elite and versatile infantrymen, they formed the loyal core of the Caliph's army. Other notable contingents included the Dailamis, expert skirmishers from the highlands of northern Persia. While African troops, including military slaves and Muslim converts from Ethiopia, fought as heavy infantry, armed with shield, sword, and spear. The great Caliph Harun al-Rashid was known to have an elite bodyguard of 40 African soldiers. Abbasid armies were particularly skilled in siege warfare.
Is that a
Made
grenade?
expert use of catapults, mangonels, and battering rams.
Is that a grenade? So this is quite literally a grenade launcher.
They even had specialist troops armed with naphtha,
Fire?
or petroleum-based fire weapons. No contemporary illustrations are known.
Hold on, petroleum. When was oil or petroleum or natural gas or what we use in combustion engines used for other things? 10th century? 900s?
But they're thought to have been similar to this slightly later Byzantine illustration.
Oh, okay.
The 9th century, however, would see changes so radical that some historians have termed it a military revolution. During the civil war between al-Rashid's sons, al-Mu'tasim had begun to expand his military retinue by purchasing Turkish slave soldiers. His favorite supplier was the Samanid family, governors of Transoxiana.
Turkish, your history is so strange. I watched Ataturk is much later. Like Ataturk is a 20th century figure, right? At the earliest 1800s. But that I watched a video. Who is it by? Starts with a K. Hertz. I forget, but that like Turkish people who formed modern day Turkey, and before that the Ottoman Empire, were people originally from like modern Mongolian territory, Asian steppe areas that came along, and so they had a lot of the Oghuz Turks. I gotta watch that video again or another one explaining you guys, because Turkey, you make no sense. You're hit. No, not.
Supply purchasing Turkish slave soldiers.
Love you, Turkey. Okay.
His favorite supplier was the Samanid family, governors of Transoxiana. These slave soldiers were seized from their villages as boys, or bought in slave markets, then sent for intensive military training alongside an Islamic education. They emerged as formidable cavalrymen and superbly skilled mounted archers. Al-Jahith, a contemporary, wrote of them with awe. The Turks are as good as others with the lance, and in addition, if 1,000 of their horsemen are hard-pressed, they will loose all their arrows in a single volley and bring down 1,000 enemy horsemen. No body of men can stand up to such a test. If 1,000 of their horsemen...
So they're saying that they're so accurate that it'll be one shot, one kill for everyone.
...men can stand up to such a test.
Al-Jahiz's Arab Rider A68.
Historians dispute the exact timeline, but at some point in the 9th century, these Turkish slave soldiers, known as Mamluks, had come to form an elite corps.
Before we go on to Mamluks, okay, you know how the current year we usually talk about it's like BC AD? Well, what did like people of non-Christian societies call the year that they were in these days? Like they weren't like, oh, it's whatever it is AD. So I wonder what they
timeline. But at some point in the 9th century, these Turkish slave soldiers, known as Mamluks, had come to form an elite corps within the Abbasid army, one that was personally loyal to the Caliph and could be used to intimidate his political rivals. Turkish officers, despite their initial outsider status and ignorance of Arabic language and customs, began to wield huge influence at the Caliph's court. This offended the old nobility, many of whom also stopped receiving traditional diwan payments for their military service. The discontent even pushed some soldiers to riot in the streets of Baghdad. To ease tension,
Why can't I grow a beard like that? I heard what they said. I would rewind if I didn't.
al-Baghdad. To ease tension, al-Mu'tasim constructed a new city for the Turkish military elite, Samarra. This was where he garrisoned the Turks and rewarded their commanders with land. And it's where, in 848, work began on the world's largest mosque and its famous spiral minaret. Al-Mu'tasim's reliance on slave soldiers to shore up his power had destroyed centuries of military tradition, and it had sown the seeds of future turmoil. 2 years later, the Caliph led his formidable new army against the old foe.
Oh, all right. I had to pee. I'm sorry. I washed my hands.
The Eastern Roman or Byzantine Empire. The campaign ended in a great victory, the capture and sack of Amorium. O day of the Battle of Amorium, our hopes have returned from you, overflowing with honey-sweet milk, wrote Arab poet Abu Tamam.
Ode on the conquest
But
of
even
Amorium.
such victories failed to ease the tension between Turkish officers and Abbasid nobles. Some nobles even plotted to overthrow al-Mu'tasim and expel the Turks. But their conspiracy was discovered, and they were executed.
The Turks have become master of the realm. The world must fall silent and obey. Al-Masudi, historian 956.
Al-Mu'tasim was succeeded by his eldest son, Al-Wathik. Following his unexpected death, a second son, Al-Mutawakkil, took the throne, backed by the Turk generals. They'd hoped for a pliable puppet, but instead, Al-Mutawakkil decided it was time to reassert caliphal authority. On his orders, several Turkish leaders were assassinated, and he tried to use Arab and Armenian troops to counterbalance their influence. But the Turks struck back.
Armenia is going to go back 5 seconds. Armenia is a much older like group of people and like an identified kind of nation or group of people, empire, a civilization, whatever, than I thought they were. Way older. I thought Armenia was probably a country that was created maybe the fall of the Soviet Union or maybe even a few hundred years ago, but nope, even longer.
To balance their influence. But the Turks struck back. In 861, the Caliph was assassinated by his own bodyguards. The chaos and civil war that followed is known as the Decade of Anarchy. 4 caliphs took power, all puppets of the Turkish military elite. Each, in turn, was violently overthrown. Order was only restored with the accession of Caliph al-Mu'tamid in 870. But the anarchy had irreparably damaged the Caliph's authority. Even before the Abbasids came to power, the vast caliphate had struggled to maintain control of its many regions. Abbasid authority west of Egypt had long been largely theoretical. But now, multiple major uprisings broke out as local governors and warlords staked out their own claims to rule. Egypt, fertile and prosperous, was an early casualty, lost to a rebel Turkish commander who founded his own Tulunid dynasty.
Assuming this is the very beginning of the Ottoman Empire. Also, guys, I'll go back. Who are considered Arabs? I know Iranians are not Arabs. Turks, people from Turkey are not Arabs. But are people from Egypt Arabs? Obviously, I feel like I know people from Lebanon, Palestine, Syria, or Saudi Arabia, probably Yemen and Oman. I said Iraq, right? Jordan are Arab, but I'm assuming Egyptians are Arab too. But are Moroccans Arab? Are Algerians Arab? Are Tunisians, Libyans Arabs? Or is it just, you know, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Yemen, you know, the Gulf states, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, like that. And then Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine. I've wondered that. So, like, where Iranians aren't Arabs, Turkish people aren't Arabs, where does it stop over here? That's my big question.
Staked out their own claims to rule.
Sorry, I'll go forward.
Tulunid. A revolt broke out. In southern Iraq, a major revolt broke out among agricultural slaves from Eastern Africa, known as Zanj. The 14-year uprising devastated the region and severely disrupted Abbasid tax income and Baghdad's food supply. In Afghanistan, a coppersmith named Yaqub al-Safar made an astonishing rise to power, founding his own Safarid dynasty and conquering much of eastern Persia.
I heard that.
His advance was only halted at the Battle of Deir al-Akul in 876. In such turbulent times, Abbasid caliphs struggled to impose their authority. But there were some successes. Caliph al-Mu'tadid engineered a brief Abbasid resurgence, thanks to military campaigning and shrewd diplomacy, notably his marriage to the daughter of the Tulunid ruler of Egypt. She was the celebrated Qutr al-Nada. Her name means dewdrop. One scholar described her as one of the most intelligent and regal women who ever lived. When al-Mu'tadid told his bride, "You've done well for yourself by marrying the Caliph. What more could you thank God for?" She replied, "You've done well for yourself. This makes my father your subject. What more could you thank God for?" Her bold response was a sign of her character.
I just want to say dewdrop is a great... I'm always confused with names from certain places that mean like, oh, like person of, like things that I can't imagine being a name in the English speaking or even European area, but dewdrop is...
As well as the
beautiful
her
name.
bold response was a sign of her character, as well as the delicate new balance of power between Abbasid caliphs and some of their more powerful subjects. During the reign of al-Mu'tadid's son, al-Muqtafi, Tulunid Egypt was fully reabsorbed into the Abbasid Caliphate. But elsewhere, the news was dire. Abbasid authority collapsed in Arabia, where one Shiite group, the Qarmatians, even began attacking pilgrims on their way to Holy Mecca.
Oh.
In 930, they stole the Black Stone, the Holy of Holies, from the Kaaba. The Black Stone, the Holy of Holies, from the Kaaba. A terrible blow to Abbasid prestige. In Central Asia, the Persian Samanids carved out their own empire and declared independence. This was the height of the so-called Persian intermezzo, when native Persian dynasties ruled in their own empire. Central Asia, the Persian Samanids carved out their own empire and declared independence. This was the height of the so-called Persian intermezzo, when native Persian dynasties ruled in Persia once more. Increasingly, the Abbasid Caliph was said to reign, but not rule. He'd become a symbol without power, often under the thumb of his vizier. By the 930s, the Caliph had lost control of both the civilian administration and army command, which was handed over to a new official, the Amir al-Umara, commander of the commanders. The final humiliation came in 945. The Buyids were Shiite.
When does the term not caliph, not Shah, Sultan. When does the term Sultan become a thing?
Warlord came.
Is that only an Ottoman Empire term, or is that
came in 940s? The final humiliation came in 945. The Buyids were Shiite warlords from the Dailam Mountains of northwestern Persia. But their first success was in Fars, before they went on to seize control of Persia and Iraq. The final humiliation came in 945. The Buyids were Shiite warlords from the Dailam Mountains of northwestern Persia. But their first success was in Fars, before they went on to seize control of Persia and Iraq. Their triumphal entry into Baghdad was a deep humiliation for the Sunni Abbasids.
Words of wisdom don't.
Yet they retained the title of Caliph, as no more than figureheads under Buyid command, and spectators to these turbulent times. 2 decades later, another Shiite dynasty, the Fatimids, swept along the North African coast, conquered Egypt, and founded Cairo as the capital of their own caliphate.
Guys, I have to look up which one's Shiite, which one is Sunni. Sunni and Shia, with the overwhelming majority of Iranians practicing Shia. Okay, so Sunni is the bigger one, okay? And Shiite, or Shiite, is the other one. So Sunni, this area. Shiite, this area. Sunni, Shiite. Shia, Sunni. Shia, Sunni. Okay. All right. All right.
Two decades later, another Shiite dynasty, the Fatimids, swept along the North African coast, conquered Egypt, and founded Cairo as the capital of their own caliphate.
Really?
Some historians label this the Shiite century, with Shiite dynasties ruling twin caliphates and dominating much of the Muslim world.
So I'm curious how this becomes Sunni.
But it was not to last. A dangerous new Sunni power was poised to burst out of Central Asia. The Seljuk Turks.
How are they Sunni, though? How? because over the Caspian Sea. How is a major Sunni area separated by a Shia area, and then this place is Sunni as well? Is it because of like trade over the Caspian Sea with this Sunni area? Or is it just a coincidence?
Dangerous new Sunni power was poised to burst out of Central Asia. The Seljuk Turks.
It's like that's a very recognize the Sunni revival.
The Seljuk.
I don't have like a favorite, guys. I'm just like, the Seljuk Turks is a term I remember from who's the guy who did like history of the universe and whatever. Seljuk Turks was mentioned, means they're super big deal, and they're being mentioned right now. And I'm learning about the difference between Sunni and Shia, and so I'm just excited. I'm not like picking sides or anything. Right?
The Seljuk Turks were pastoralists, nomadic livestock farmers from the Central Asian steppe. They were fierce warriors who became champions of Sunni Islam. At the end of the 10th century, possibly in response to climate change, they swept south into Khorasan. The Ghaznavid Empire, successor to the Samanids, was first to fall. The Seljuk Turks were unstoppable, surging westwards across the Persian plateau, taking Baghdad and toppling the Buyids, crushing a Byzantine army at Manzikert, and forging the great Seljuk Empire.
So were they like the Mongols before the Mongols? Because the Genghis Khan is like 1200s, right? 1300s, 11, 12, 1300s. This is the 1000s. So England is a thing 5 years ago from here. But they swept across very easily. And so I'm wondering if it's because of the same reason that the Mongols were able to sweep across so easily, because of their horseback, just nomadic lifestyle. They didn't need to conquer a city for the same reason that the enemies that these people faced before needed to conquer it. They'll live outside it, fine, and just go and go and go with it. Kind of like a Central Asian blitzkrieg kind of thing.
Their triumph was tempered by the arrival of European crusaders, who took Jerusalem in 1099 and carved out a series of crusader states. One Shia sect, shrouded in legend, struck back at the Seljuks with deadly precision. In 1092, Nizam al-Mulk, vizier of the Seljuk Empire, was killed by the Order of Assassins, its hit squad disguised as Sufi mystics.
Sufi?
The Assassins, or Hashashin as they're known in Arabic, were a new Ismaili...
Why does your writing look so damn cool?
Militaries, or Hashashin as they're known in Arabic, were a new Ismaili military order formed in the mountains of northwestern Persia. Facing powerful enemies, but without an army of their own, they turned to subterfuge and assassination to achieve their goals. Many fanciful stories are told about the Assassins, but the order was real and feared, and responsible for scores of political murders over the next 2 centuries.
Guys are like, what'd you do?
Under the Seljuks, Abbasid caliphs continued to reign as spiritual leaders and figureheads. But the 12th century saw the fracturing of the great Seljuk Empire, a familiar story of disputed successions and local governors making their bid for power. Sensing weakness, in 1136, Abbasid Caliph al-Muqtafi raised his own army to reassert Abbasid independence for the first time in nearly 2 centuries. He took control of Baghdad, and in 1157 held it against a Seljuk siege. He raised his own army to reassert Abbasid independence for the first time in nearly 2 centuries. He took control of Baghdad, and in 1157 held it against a Seljuk siege.
How did you even keep the Abbasid kind of dream alive for centuries after being conquered and clearly being on the downward trend? I'd like to learn that story within a story.
In 1157 held it against a Seljuk siege. After generations of foreign subjugation, the Abbasids had re-emerged as an independent power. But it would soon all come crashing down.
Don't tell me it's a... For some reason, I feel like I'm really good at being able to recognize like when transition to ads or like part 2 is coming, and I really felt like that was about to be like next time. They swept through the city like hungry falcons attacking a flight of doves, or like raging wolves attacking sheep as the population died at the hands of the invaders, Wasaf historian 1328.
In the 13th century, a new force from the east tore through the Islamic world. Century, a new force. In the 13th century, a new force from the east tore through the Islamic world, scattering armies and destroying every city that did not submit to them.
Mongols.
The Mongols.
There they are. Stay away from me. Like of any enemy I don't want to face. Because if they're the reason why they'd be such a scary enemy isn't because I'm like looking at them in like the Roman sense of like, look how organized and look at their armor and how stoic and like they look so advanced. It's just like, oh God, like throw out the rule book. These people, it seems like an enemy that like, if you resist them, great. They're going to go destroy the city a few miles down while you're cramped up here. Maybe they'll come back later, right? And then ruin all of your... Oh, God, the Mongols.
Did not submit to them.
Stay away.
The Mongols.
So I'm assuming... So are the is Turkey a result of the Mongols? Or... Turks Turks before the invasion in this area that we saw earlier in this video, 5-10 minutes ago, were clearly in the Asian steppe area and must have been in contact with these central, northern, eastern, northern Asian steppe people who I think were more preoccupied with Chinese stuff, but you know, conquering. But forget it. Just
first.
They were similar?
First to fall, the Khwarezmian Empire, successor to the Seljuks, overrun by the Mongol hordes of Genghis Khan. By 1256, his grandson, Hulagu, was poised to renew the onslaught. But first, he turned his attention to the assassins, rumored to be plotting his death. The order was scattered and crushed. 2 years later, Hulagu advanced against the Abbasid Caliphate. As his armies neared Baghdad,
You have no hope. You had just begun asserting yourself again from the surrounding people, and now a new enemy comes in that just destroyed one of them and is coming for you.
As his armies neared Baghdad, he sent a stern warning to Caliph al-Mustasim, demanding the city's surrender.
What did he say?
Despite the Mongols' terrifying record of destroying any city
said no.
that opposed them, Al-Mustasim decided Baghdad's walls could keep out any steppe nomads. He was wrong. After half Baghdad's garrison was massacred in a disastrous sortie, the city surrendered. But Hulagu was in no mood for mercy.
There's something so terrifying about facing an enemy. I feel like it's not really possible anymore in today's age. Honestly, it hasn't been possible for a while now, like for centuries. But of facing an enemy that seemed just completely, they might as well be aliens from another planet. Like they're so disconnected from your kind of life that like some of the rules that you might have had with other of your enemies around the area you've been fighting with, of like, you know where they're going to stop. These people just don't care. They're just going to super
Contemporary
terrifying.
chronicler described the horror for mercy.
Great video, by the way.
Chronicler described the horrors that followed. The people of Baghdad were put to the sword and subjected to 40 days of killing, pillaging, and enslavement. They tortured people to extort their wealth. They killed men, women, and children. A great part of the city, including the Caliph's mosque, was burnt, and the city laid in ruins. The dead lay like mounds in the streets and markets. The death toll is unknown, but was in the many thousands. Allegedly, only Christians were spared, thanks to the intercession of Hulagu's Christian wife.
Huh?
Baghdad's libraries were destroyed.
I hate you.
Their books.
It's like stuff like this, like the Baghdad library being destroyed, or like the Library of Alexandria being destroyed, or other stuff. It's like I would be more pissed off at, like, I would rather, like, if someone were to bomb the Mount Rushmore or the Pyramid of Giza, I would rather Mount Rushmore, even though I'm American and I see that as a great, like, pride of my country and everything. But something like the pyramids eclipses that of my own country because it's so relevant to the history of people overall than to just the country. And so when I hear like stores of knowledge of any culture being destroyed by another, it just saddens me a lot. Just because I'm sure they had documents of stuff that talked about people that we don't have documents of talking about those people anymore, or stuff. And
manuscripts representing centuries of Muslim scholarship were thrown into the Tigris River so that it was said to run black with ink. Al-Mustasim was forced to witness this terrible destruction. Then, according to several sources, he was rolled in a carpet and trampled to death, as Mongols feared to spill royal blood. The last caliph...
How is that not spilling royal blood? You don't think he bled when the horses marched over him?
of Baghdad was dead. The last caliph of Baghdad was dead. Never again would the Abbasids hold meaningful political power. Al-Mustasim was not the last Abbasid caliph. The line would continue under the Mamluk Sultanate that now ruled Egypt, but his successors in Cairo were merely ceremonial figures, religious leaders with little power. The last caliph, Al-Mutawakkil III, surrendered to the Ottoman Empire in 1517 and was taken away as a prisoner to Constantinople.
Guys, it's so fascinating learning. One of the great things learning about history is seeing how everything is connected and how like the Ottoman Empire doesn't rise if there wasn't already a Middle East, well, what today we call a Middle East, that area wasn't, didn't suffer this stuff or this stuff or this stuff, and then it made it possible. It's crazy how different stuff could be if just a few things in history didn't happen. And fascinating and fascinating. That's the word. Eye-opening.
It was a humiliating fate for a dynasty that had once ruled one of history's greatest empires. One that had dominated the Middle East, that had taken on and defeated the Byzantines in the west and Chinese in the east, that had overseen a great flourishing of scholarship, culture, technology and trade, and reigned over the era that is remembered as Islam's golden age. For centuries to come, Islamic leaders would assert their legitimacy by claiming descent from this one towering dynasty, the Abbasids. Thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. Use our link in the video description to download now. Big thanks to Osprey Publishing for kind permission to use several of their images in this video. In the video description, we've included links to some of the titles that cover the military history of the Caliphate, with much more brilliant artwork. Thanks also to our series historical advisor, Professor Antoine Borut of the University of Maryland. You can find out more about Antoine's projects and publications via his university webpage using the link in the video description. Thanks most of all to the Epic History TV Patreon supporters who make this channel possible. Visit our Patreon page to find out how you can support our work, help choose future topics, and get ad-free early access to new videos.
Amazing video, Epic History TV. I say amazing video instead of amazing video because I just expect that from them, and they always deliver. I got to learn more about Napoleon, especially considering the movie starring Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon coming out pretty soon. But such a good video. I paused way more than I meant to. Even after the break I took to go to the bathroom, I thought like, oh, I commented way too much. I'm not going to comment as much. And I think I still ended up doing it. So that was an issue. Sorry if you made it this far. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Any comments I made that are off key or any questions I made you could answer, please, please, please comment down below. I really appreciate it and love seeing them. Hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you guys next time. All right. Bye.